Get in the know. Non-stop Vikings talk. It's Purple Daily on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
We are in the thick of bye week here. The thick of bye week. And while many other Viking shows out there, I'm sure, are taking some time to kick back, relax, and enjoy themselves, no, we dive deeper. We dig even deeper into the topics that matter, into what ails this football team the last couple weeks. State of the Offense Thursday today, boys, on Purple Daily.
There's no off season. There's no off season. There's no off weeks.
No.
You know what? The players are off. You think KOC's off? You think
dude.
KOC's sitting on a beach somewhere? No, he's in his office grinding film.
Yeah,
the sun's
out today in Minneapolis, but he's got the black curtains. He's got maybe like a desk light on as he grinds through the old film. I bet he doesn't use the digital film. I bet he uses the reel-to-reel film to really get a feel for the all 22.
I love that. You know what? He left for work today, and the kid said, "Daddy, what time are you home? You're on the bye week." And he said, "Kids, I have no idea. This is a work week."
He's like our guy Ric Flair. He leaves home 6 months later. He comes back, and if his family's still there, that's great. If not, there's other fish in the sea for Ric Flair. But we're going to dive into one key question specifically that Joe Buck sort of brought up on the Monday Night Football broadcast. And then we'll get to a random Viking of the week and some other fun stuff on today's show. A shout out to our friends at Zero Res. They're helping you clean that dirty home, that dirty carpet for the holidays here. Okay, you don't be embarrassed by all you're tracking in. Now there's some snow on the ground. I feel like every couple days you're tracking in mud, paw prints, whatever it may be. Maybe Uncle Bob spilled some Pinot on the carpet or something.
Uncle Bob. Okay. Get your act together.
Uncle Bob.
Come on, Bob.
What a buffoon. Let's not invite him next year.
Well, if you love a clean house and you want to clean your house for family gatherings, no better way than with Zero Res. Don't just DIY it. Call Zero Res. A 4.9 out of 5 rating on Google with over 17,000 reviews. And if you call Zero Res or go to the website, you can ask for the Phil Mackey and Score North special. 3 rooms, 0 resified, starting at $129. This month, also $75 off when you get your air ducts cleaned, so you can breathe a little easier at night. 952-0-RES or ZeroResMinnesota.com. The Phil Mackey Score North special. Tell them you want that. Spell it forwards and backwards. It spells the same. Zero Res. So, state of the offense here, boys. Let's start with just the overall offensive categories. Where does this team rank after a putrid, embarrassing offensive performance against the Bears at home? Yards per play, Vikings are still 9th in the NFL offensively. Points per game, they're down to 14th. EPA, so expected points added analytically based on process, 14th. And DVOA is kind of the same, but different formula, 19th. So you put all that together, 9th, 14th, and 19th. So call them sort of a fringe top half of the league offense here that's kind of gone down a couple steps the last couple weeks. I'll give you one more here, and then we can banter this around before we get to a couple of the questions. So Kirk Cousins compared to Josh Dobbs as Vikings. Let's compare where they rank here, okay? Passer rating. Now this is Cousins before the injury, and this is Josh Dobbs in the last 4 games. Cousins passer rating 3rd, Dobbs 25th as a Viking. Not good. QBR, Cousins 7th, Dobbs 7th. Dobbs was so good QBR the first 2 games. He was awful last week, kind of middle of the pack against Denver. It all averages out to be 7th. PFF grade, Cousins 6th, Dobbs 17th. Expected points added, Kirk Cousins 7th, Dobbs 18th. If you average all those categories together, Cousins 6th, Dobbs 17th. So the Vikings have swapped out a very firmly one of the 10 best quarterbacks in the league that was playing at a really high level, closer to top 5, for the 17th best quarterback, somewhere in that ballpark. That feels a little bit more right than maybe where things were at after the Atlanta and New Orleans games, right?
Yeah. It seems that actually there's nothing about that beyond probably the QBR still being 7th. That shocks me, and yeah, I mean that's the reason why I think that if the Vikings are going to now get to the playoffs, given what we have seen the past 2 weeks, not the first two, because Dobbs was really good. He deserves credit for that. But when you have turned over the ball 6 times in the past 2 games, that's why I think we're going to see Nick Mullins, not Joshua Dobbs, not Jaron Hall on December 10th against the Raiders. But yeah, that doesn't wow, I can't believe the stats. I mean, Kirk Cousins was having a really good year. He was having a really good year. As far as the regular season goes, none of that surprises me. But I do think that the Vikings are going to have to turn to a quarterback who O'Connell can trust. And I think that's the problem. Dobbs is a great story. I mean, it's a great story. But I think the erosion of the trust in ball security for a team that, keep in mind, had an erosion of that trust from day one of the regular season.
Yeah.
I think that's why we're going to see O'Connell turn to a quarterback who might be less flashy at his greatest moments, but O'Connell thinks he can trust more.
Yeah, and I think Josh Dobbs did a great job for the most part outside of this clunker that he was put in against the Bears on Monday Night Football. But also, I go back to the whole game plan that Kevin O'Connell wanted to run with him. That, to me, was just so strange that there weren't design runs. There weren't things that Josh Dobbs did really well in the first few games that he kind of like eliminated off the table in the Bears game. And I think it's probably trending still towards a quarterback change when they return from the bye week. But I also wonder why KOC went away with some of the things that made Josh Dobbs so effective in the first few games too. And yes, the quarterback has to make the plays. Totally get that. But I also think it's a little weird that KOC just abandoned a bunch of plays and situations that worked really well for Josh Dobbs.
And with those 4 interceptions that he threw, and if you go back and kind of comb through, one of them was 100% not his fault. The Jordan Addison one was just on the only criticism that Aikman brought up was, boy, he might have thrown that a little too hard. But when you watch it, like, dude, it's a laser over the middle. It literally hits him right in the hands and bounces through.
Yep.
A couple of the other ones, the cornerback made a really nice play, kind of baiting him on that one throw, but still, that doesn't have to be an interception. But with the 4 interceptions, the Vikings now lead the NFL in turnovers again. They did after the first 3 weeks, and then a couple other teams caught the Vikings, and now they're back to turning the ball over a bunch. Didn't they have 3 also against the Broncos too? So it's like 7 or 8 turnovers in the last 2 weeks. So 24 turnovers in 12 games. The Browns have 23 turnovers in 11 games. So once they catch the Vikings in games played, they might swap the lead there. But if you look at the bottom, people wonder, like, God, how are the Steelers doing this? The Steelers they're 7 wins. They did it again. They fired their offensive coordinator,
yeah, exactly.
and they actually had a great offensive game yardage wise. They still can't score points, but they had 400 yards of total offense. But people are looking at the Steelers like, how do they keep winning games? Well, the Steelers have 9 turnovers on the season in 11 games. That's the fewest turnovers in the NFL. A 15 turnover gap between the Vikings and the Steelers in 11, 12 games. So you're telling me if you could replay the Viking season and take 1 turnover per game off the table, what would their record be? Certainly better than 6-6, right?
I think you can point to at least 3 defeats, if not 4, that can be directly linked.
Yes, they'd be right there. They'd be like a 3-loss team right there in the mix for the number 2 seed in the NFC.
We're not joking when we say that the Vikings record is what it is because of the Vikings. I don't give a lot of credit to their opponents. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say, well, the Bears played the Bears did some good things defensively, but the Bears didn't beat the Vikings. The Vikings shot themselves in the foot.
Yeah, the Bears are who we thought they were. The Bears are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
It does start with Dobbs, but I will say this, to your point, Jordan Addison had a disappointing game. I know the pass on the sideline was bad, okay? But I'd really like to find a way for Jordan to have slowed down and realized where he was. I'm not saying this is all his fault.
Yeah.
I am saying that was a salvageable play. If the ball had landed in the stands, I'd be like, Josh Dobbs sucks. But the ball landed on the sideline, and Addison admitted I could have done more. And if you complete that, different game, different story.
On the Dobbs front, though, on that pass, and I should have just cut some of the stuff. Schedules we usually get Boone on Mondays, and then his schedule he's running around all over the place with kids sporting events and with he's running an offensive line training business and stuff. So
he's a really good dad. He's a really good dad. He should peel back on that a bit for us.
But if you could sacrifice your parenthood, actually.
Well, no, I don't want him to sacrifice his whole parenthood, but I mean, a couple hours a week, like
how about sacrifice like one of the kids? Just for us. You got 3 left.
Just a few hours.
So his bye week is looking like it's going to be this week with us, and then we'll get him back in, and we can look at some of the stuff in that Bears game. One of the things I'd like to bring up with you guys, but I went through and was like cutting up some of these plays for us to show with Boone, and that pass, I agree, it's a tough catch because of where the ball's placed. You'd like to see Addison make the catch, but dude, that is a ball that you have to put on the number, not on like what Kirk Cousins does there is broken coverage. Let me throw it. 10 yards away from the sideline. Throw it to the number. Right. Addison catches it going in toward like almost like a post route. So it was a terrible throw in that situation. But here's a category for you too. Okay, we're kind of going like turnovers was a category. Rushing offense. Let's talk about this for a second. And then I have a big quarterback question for you for the next category. So the Vikings rushing offense here, they are currently 29th in the NFL in rush yards per game, ahead of only the Raiders, Buccaneers, and Bengals. So 29th in rushing, number 1 in fumbles. They've fumbled the ball 23 times in 12 games so far this year.
Yep.
But if you watch that game against the Bears on Monday night, there were 2 drives that, as you go back to and just kind of rehash, where did things go sideways for this team? Mm-hmm. 2 drives in the third quarter. The first play of the third quarter for the Vikings was Alexander Madison's first 20-yard rush in over 2 calendar years, October 10th of 2021. Mm-hmm. Just a perfectly blocked, well-executed 21-yard run to go from the 25-yard line almost to midfield. They follow that up by passing the ball multiple times, failure, right? I think it was like 5 minutes of game time later. It might have been the next drive or the drive after that. The Vikings get the ball again at like their own 25-yard line. 3 rushes, bang, bang. There's an 11-yard run, a 7-yard, 3 rushes, bang, 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 and they're back close to midfield, running the ball. Here we go. All right. They proceed to throw once they got to midfield. 6 consecutive passes for 13 total yards, and I think the last one was a 4th down interception.
Yep.
So I guess, Mike, I know that the Bears' run defense has been one of the best in the NFL leading into that game. I get it. And I know the Vikings' rushing offense, they don't have a ton of confidence in it. But when your quarterback is struggling to just avoid interceptions for the first hour and a half of the game, and you come out of the locker room, third quarter, 21-yard run, 11-yard run, 7-yard run, we got this thing going. Why do you then stop running the ball on each of those drives? That's what I'm trying to wrap my head around from a play calling standpoint.
Because Kevin O'Connell has had a hard time. I mean, first of all, there's multiple answers to the question. I would start with this one. Kevin O'Connell has had a difficult time marrying the run and the pass, which is absolutely imperative. You cannot not have one of them. Okay. So it's not like, well, we're a pass first team, and that's great if you're a pass first team, and that sounds sexy, but that does not mean that you cannot have a run game. The other thing, so if you really want to get down into the weeds on this, the real weeds, the football weeds, and extrapolate on what you just brought up, let's go to the end of the game where the Vikings, or near the end of the game, where the Vikings had a chance to run clock. And O'Connell was sort of swayed about, should I run clock and make them use timeout? Should I try and put a dagger in them? What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And this is not the first time that the Vikings attempted to put the dagger in by running the clock out, okay? Madison, no gain. Madison, 1 yard. Dobbs, short pass, minus 1 yard. And then you have to punt, and Ryan Wright makes a bad punt, which is unfortunate, and I'm not absolving him. But what was the answer here? And I'll tell you, this to me comes back to the entire conversation of this team's run game, which PFF has proved is not the offensive line's fault. We no longer can just say, well, the offensive line sucks. They can't run the ball because of those guys. That's their fault.
I do think they did a bad job blocking on those 2 runs you just mentioned, though, where, like, just to interject for a second, that's a situation where, thinking on it, I'm less upset about the play calling in that spot. This is a drive where, hey, guys, if we can just run the ball down their throats for a first down, we get them to use timeouts and we win the game because we get a first down. put a hat on somebody and make it happen, and they were unable to. So I do put that drive on the offensive line more than the play calling personally.
But I'm going 10,000-foot view on this, and the consistency of that run game and the willingness to not only trust it but have it come through. And I think that's where that there is problems with the play calling. I think that's where there's problems with the personnel at times. I think that's where I think the issue that we're talking about from a season-long fundamental problem is the fact that you can't trust your run, and that it shouldn't be. And we're not talking about getting chunks of 25 yards, 30 yards, 40 yards. We're talking about moving the chain. So we're talking about very manageable carries. And that to me is where they're, and O'Connell, in my opinion, play calling wise, to go back to what you just documented, is at times panicking. And it's like, okay, we didn't run well there. Let's just start to pass the ball. Well, with Kirk Cousins, probably, you feel like, okay, it's Kirk Cousins. But Dobbs on a bad night, you're not going to move the football. And so these are the things where I think no matter who the quarterback is in 2024, this team needs to get a semblance of a run game back that it can trust, and that the coach can trust in game planning for it. Because that to me is where there is a big time discrepancy in nobody's saying you have to have Walter Payton in his prime. What we are saying is you have to have a run game that you can at least trust. And I would argue that in O'Connell's whole time here, I don't think he's ever fully trusted it.
Yeah, and it's like, is some of that just he doesn't trust the personnel? Like, if you were to give Kevin O'Connell, this is my question, like, let's say he stepped in and he was the head coach now of the 49ers, of the Eagles, of the Dolphins have an insane running game. The Dolphins, at one point, like 3 weeks ago, the Dolphins were averaging over 6 yards a carry on there. It's regressed now to like 5.5, but if you were to give him, the Ravens, where you've got a dual threat quarterback or just a great road blocking, like road grading, run blocking offensive line, and then running backs who actually have explosion too, would he lean more into the run game, or does he philosophically just not really believe in cramming the ball down a team's throat on the ground? That's a question I have after almost 2 years of Kevin O'Connell play calling.
I don't think he is successfully able to, and this is on him, I don't think he's successfully able to trust the run game to set up the pass like he's going to need to be to become a completely mature play caller. Because nobody's asking him to become Fleck. Like, we're not saying, dude, you got to just run the ball. Let's have some NFC Central football, right? Let's just bring up the dirt and grass and let's go. We're saying, how do you successfully navigate a drive to where the run allows the pass to come alive more often? Because the pass can't really, can the pass consistently set up the pass? Like, to me, it feels like it needs to be the harmony of the whole thing mixed together.
Yeah, but like, and I feel like I'm kind of playing both sides here a little bit, because if I put myself in Kevin's shoes, he doesn't have a true number one explosive, reliable running back. We can sit here and say, okay, well, Ty Chandler's explosive because he runs a 4.3 40, but there's a reason why if Ty Chandler was, I've kind of come to this conclusion. I'd like to see more Ty Chandler. You guys would like to see more Ty Chandler. If Ty Chandler was the thing that would unlock this running game, are they so dumb sitting in those offices that they wouldn't give him 10 carries to find out? Like, that's where I'm at. These guys aren't idiots here.
I think, yeah. Go.
No, that's my point. Like, I guess they don't have a guy. They don't have a Christian McCaffrey. They don't have the horses. Like, the Ravens have a couple reliable running backs and Lamar Jackson. Like, the Vikings don't have a reliable number one running back.
I think they are. Yeah, that's true. I think they don't. I think their problem with Chandler is, one, his blocking, which, okay, that's fine. But two, I don't think he's disciplined enough in his discipline with like lanes and knowing where to go, and on coaches, that's like, to fans, we're like, okay, but he puts his foot in the ground. He's fast. They're like, no, but he's not going to the right place.
Yeah.
But we've talked about this before, going back years. You can find guys who are upgrades. Like, you can, it's not like Alexander Madison is disappointing and you've tried to replace Daniil Hunter, right? Like, that's a unique skill set. That guy's unbelievable. So to expect him to step in, it's not like, well, okay, next guy. Running back literally is next guy. So, like, to me, solve this problem. Can't solve it right now. I totally get that.
They can't solve it until probably the draft, unfortunately. Yeah.
It looked like in a little bit of, as things progressed until he got hurt, Cam Akers was getting closer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like, you can solve this. This should not be year 3 of O'Connell should feature a run game that they have far more confidence in. Far more.
Yep. So, okay, here's my quarterback question for you guys. Joe Buck went on the broadcast, and I heard this. I believe the word he used was desperate. So I wrote down the word desperate. I'm 90% sure he said desperate or desperately. But the context of his comment was the Vikings are desperate to bring Kirk Cousins back in 2024. And Joe is probably almost certainly gleaning that from his production conversations with where they get to spend time a day or two before the game on a conference call with Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi, right? So, and those are mostly off the record conversations. Just, hey, we're doing all these games all season long. Catch us up on what's happening with you guys. You know, what's happening right now. Oh, Kirk Cousins is a free agent. So my guess is Kevin O'Connell and or Kwesi told him, yeah, we'd really like to get Kirk back here. You know, he was playing at such a high level. How do you guys feel about the Vikings? Let's take Joe, friend of the show, Joe Buck, right? Let's take him at his word.
I hope still. I mean, TMZ picked up our stuff with him, so he might be like, I'm out on those guys. I didn't know TMZ would pick this up.
That's great. TMZ picks up the Joe Buck Purple Daily. Ric Flair in the studio with his Woo energy drink here.
That's a nice drink.
Big weekend.
Nice. I like your can.
The Judd with the slicked back Pat Riley hair. This is a big week for
That's a huge week.
Purple Daily.
I've changed the look.
It's great.
I saw Dan Graziano, too, of ESPN.com. He put out kind of more speculation towards this as well this week in a dual piece, I think, with Jeremy Fowler, that he isn't ruling out a Kirk Cousins extension either, saying, quote, that they have a large menu of quarterback options, and it's certainly possible they pivot away from Cousins to a different run. But he and the team do like each other a lot, and I wouldn't rule out a return. You just know he isn't going to come cheap, which I guess a lot of that stuff everyone really knows. He's not going to come cheap. Reunion's still on the table for sure. But it is strange. I think the initial, what I went back to that like really stood out to me was the day after the press conference, after he tore his Achilles in Green Bay, of just, yeah, he wants to be ready for OTAs. And it was like they were discussing that he's going to be back here and he wants to be back here and he's already looking ahead to 2024 and stuff. So I think a reunion's probably still on the table for him. Personally, I would move on to a different option because, again, he isn't going to come cheap, and you have extensions to Jefferson and Darisaw coming up that you're going to have to pay other guys too. But I think they have a very good working relationship and an insanely mutual respect for one another. This is not just a one-year thing. Kwesi and KOC and Kirk all are in, I don't want to say cahoots, but they all have a very much a mutual respect for one another.
So that's kind of my question for you guys is what do you want to see them do at that position now? You've seen Dobbs for a month. You saw Kirk before the injury. Let's assume realistically, I don't want to hear, well, bring back Kirk for $10 million. Like, that's not a real world answer. Let's say the price on Kirk is still going to be, it's not going to be $50 million a year, but let's say it's going to be $30+ million a year. It would have been over 40, pushing maybe close to 50 before the injury. Now let's say you knock off, it's like a clearance sale or something. It's like a buy as is off at Marshall's or something. Yeah, there's a little scuff on that luggage. Let's call it 30 to 35 million in some incentives.
Then I'm drafting a quarterback, or I am
2-year deal. Has to be a 2-year deal.
Yeah. I'm drafting the quarterback, or I am finding one for a stopgap. I'm not paying that much. He's tore his Achilles, and he's going to be 36. I mean, why would I do I, unless I thought that we were on the cusp of a Super Bowl, which, nice comeback, but you started, and it's not all Kirk's fault. He was statistically very successful, but you started 0-3 and 1-4. I am not going to commit $60 million. And by the way, my thinking has changed internally because, and this is what I'm thinking. And I think if the Vikings are intelligent, what they're thinking as well. Danielle Hunter has changed my mind. 6 months ago, I was out. 6 months ago, I would have traded him. I certainly would not have considered what Phil has talked about, which is giving him top dollar for his position. But I am now. I mean, my God, what more? Yes, he's had injury problems, but if I can do a mega 2-year deal with Kirk Cousins or Danielle Hunter, and yes, Kirk plays a more important position. So hear me out on that, folks. I know quarterback, incredibly important, but I'm doing it with the guy who's going to be coming off a fantastic year and who has shown no signs since he came back from his latest injury a couple of years ago now, no signs of slowing down. And at some point in time, I can't keep writing everybody these checks.
Yep.
So I'm out on Kirk in the parameters that you just gave me.
And I might be wrong on the parameters. It is really hard to tell what his market's going to be and everything. But I think how I would approach this is I am not out on Kirk coming back in 2024 at all. So I do want to leave that door open in these conversations. I am out on any sort of Josh Dobbs could be the starter going forward. Like we were hypothesizing about after the first 2 games. Boy, he looks pretty good driving this car. If he keeps driving the car this way, which he didn't, right, maybe there's a discussion there about a Geno Smith contract. But he kind of wrapped the car around a telephone pole there against Chicago, and second half against Denver wasn't a whole lot better. So here's how I'm prioritizing to what Judd said. I'm in on Danielle Hunter. I don't think you can just let him walk for nothing. Now, if he chooses, he's a free agent, so he can do whatever he wants. If he says, you know what, I really want to go play for Jacksonville. I almost got traded there last summer. Or Brian Flores gets a head coaching job, and I loved playing for Brian Flores. I'm just going to go play where he signs on as coach. There are some factors there that you can't control. But if Danielle wants to come back, I'm paying him. That is a priority. I just take the risk on injuries and age, whatever. You can figure that out later. And then my next priority in terms of timeline, because you'd have to make the Danielle Hunter decision before the draft, obviously. The draft is like a month and a half after free agency. My next priority is I am going to draft a quarterback in the first round unless, oh my God, the top 5 quarterbacks just went in the first 6 picks and I can't physically get up into position, right? But if I'm drafting 19th or something, I'm looking to make a move up to 12th if I need to. I'm identifying whether it's McCarthy or Penix or the LSU kid. Like, I am making it a priority. I'm not just going to draft like a crappy quarterback that I don't love. It has to be one of the 5 guys I really like. If Kirk fits in after all of that, and a Darisaw extension on the horizon, and a Justin Jefferson extension, if Kirk fits in as a bridge quarterback coming off the Achilles, awesome. Come on back, man. Hey, your replacement might have been drafted in the first round, so just get comfortable with that. But he would not be my top priority going into my offseason checklist. He just wouldn't be.
All right. Dumb question that I don't know the answer to yet, and I'm not sure that it is a question that can be completely answered at this point. But what is the Cousins free agency timeline? Because he's going to be a free agent in March. Now, I don't know the rules on physicals like you ordinarily.
Yeah.
If you guys go back to March of 2022 or 2023, excuse me, part of the reason why the whole Dalvin Cook thing got gummed up and he was obviously under contract, but the Vikings were trying to move him was because he couldn't pass a physical yet.
Yep.
So if Kirk is a free agent, shops his wares, and I mean, he's a 35-year-old guy with a torn Achilles. And I know that Rodgers is coming back, but keep in mind, Rodgers had a different surgery too, though. So
he also probably doesn't actually have a torn Achilles.
Well, but I mean,
There's
he's
no
just,
way.
I just don't even care. I don't even care about him.
I'm down that conspiracy theory path.
He's just
100%.
a gong show. Congratulations, because I like that. That's a great theory. But anyway, my point being is, what's the timeline there? Because is Kirk going to have to put himself on hold until he can pass a physical? So
that would be better for the Vikings because then they could do what they're going to do, and then it wouldn't cost $30 million anymore.
But he's not going to want to do that because clearly, if he can't sign until he passes a physical, he's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
He can charge way more on the first or second day of free agency in March than if he's forced to wait till May or June.
Yeah. It's going to be a really interesting timeline here. And all of this is 6 months down the road. The Vikings in that building today, we're sitting here doing self-reflection for the next 6 months. The Vikings are sitting in there figuring out who starts against the Raiders, right? Is it Nick Mullins?
Yes.
Is it Jaron Hall?
Well, and that's the thing too, is as Dukes explained, and I think he's 100% right on the scoops that we did also today on of course, Reckless Speculation Thursday. The thing to keep in mind is this: the Wilfs and O'Connell, I'm sure, are all in on the playoff berth. Because like I've seen some, well, they should play Jaron Hall because they can find out more. And in a perfect world, if this team was out of the playoffs, I think Jaron Hall starts for sure.
Yeah.
But like there has been nothing ever about this franchise since the Wilfs bought it that screams they're going to take a look-see at the future when there was still a playoff berth on the line.
Yep, and they're gonna. It's amazing. The Minnesota Vikings franchise. It is a gravitational pull toward 9 wins more often than not, and this is a weird winding path. 0-3, 1-4, 5-game winning streak. Oh, lose to the Bears, and they're just like staring 9 wins in the face. We have a random Viking of the week here coming up, but first, we've been telling you about Sound Story this week because it could be the perfect holiday gift. I'm kind of bad at like gift ideas. I try to take notes throughout the year, but my wife's amazing at gift ideas. But this could be a great gift idea for you. So I've told you guys that like my grandfather played for Newt Rockne at Notre Dame almost 100 years ago, fought in World War II, was this great amateur athlete, and he died 15 years before I was born. So I have never been able to actually hear his voice, and I've never been able to hear his stories. It would be great if they had the technology back in the day to just like have captured an hour of his storytelling, an hour of his life mementos. That's what Sound Story is. It's like a podcast with a professional interviewer, and I am one of the quote unquote professional interviewers that you can choose at mysoundstory.com, where we sit down, we capture those memories in an interview with a loved one in your family, and now generations have that either video, audio, or a combination of both. In your family forever. So it's mysoundstory.com, promo code PURPLE, to get the holiday special of a 10% off gift certificate for Sound Story. Promo code PURPLE at mysoundstory.com, and let us know if you do. I've had a couple of emails from people this week saying, hey, I signed up. My father or grandfather is going to sit down with you, and now I feel pressure.
Do you get questions then? Like, will they give you some questions to ask about?
Yep, you can submit various questions and themes, and we can kind of collaborate on what you want the hour-long experience to be like. So, mysoundstory.com. If you want to collaborate with Judd, a good place to go is Park Tavern, the official sports bar of the Sports Dad.
Exactly, and especially this time of year when ho, 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 Christmas is on the way, Santa Claus is coming. Does Santa Claus like to bowl? I don't know. You would have to ask him, but I know one thing that Santa Claus likes. He likes it when you have your gifts in order, so he doesn't have to bring everything on Christmas Day. And how about this from our friends at Park Tavern? The holiday gift card special available now through December 31st. Buy a $100 gift card, get $25 for free. And you are going to have a gift card that I'm going to tell you your friends and family are going to love, because who doesn't like a gift card? They're easy. They're simple. I've always said, give me a gift card. I don't want a present. I want a gift card. Park Tavern, the official sports bar of Sports Dad, a place to gather. And if you're a boss out there looking for a place for the holiday party, some shenanigans, some fun, guess what? Park Tavern's the place for you. And I'm not talking about like a small get together. I'm talking about a party for your company. Let's say it's 60 people. Guess what? Park Tavern can handle it. Parktavern.net. Parktavern.net is the place to go for fun, for bowling, for get-togethers, and for gift cards. Louisiana Avenue South, St. Louis Park. And, of course, tell them Sports Dad sent you.
Yeah. Also, hey, if you're a dog and you're looking for the best food for yourself, or if you're a dog parent like us, Nutrisource is the official dog and pet food of Purple Daily and Score North. In fact, it'll be probably, I would say, in about 20 minutes or so, Maya Mackey is going to come pawing at the door and say, hey, fat boy, where's my lunch? Where's my Nutrisource chicken and rice?
That's not nice, Maya. Don't fat shame people. Stella there, she has no patience. She just says, Pop, get the food in the bowl right now. But of course, she doesn't sit there. Look at her, judgmental. And then look at the Vinster. Go back to the Vinster, Dex.
Yeah.
Look at that look.
Yeah.
Look at that look. Please feed me. Looks like such a nice young man.
Feed me more.
He does. The stomp, the Ryback. Yeah, he's ready to go. Give me more. He's ready to rock. Yes, our friends at Nutrisource make him a very, very happy boy.
NutrisourcePetFoods.com. NutrisourcePetFoods.com. All right, boys, time for a random Viking of the week. We had a surprise one on Mackie and Judd. Write that down. The guest listener predictor surprised us with a random Viking of the week, and Judd correctly guessed Michael Jenkins. So congratulations, Judd. That ends my 5-week winning streak on Random Viking of the Week. That was a bonus one. You have clues for us today, right?
Because I lost last time.
Yep.
The last official time that we did it, yes.
Yep. So all time, Judd has 62 wins, Declan 29, I have 17. In the new era where we all three compete against each other in an equal format, Judd has 10 wins, I have 10 wins, Declan has 3 wins. Judd lost last week, so he throws out the clues this week. We get up to 3 strikes. If any of us hits the 3, the other person wins. Here we go. No cheating.
All right. Are you guys ready?
Oh, yeah.
This Random Viking hails from Palatka, Florida.
Wow. Okay.
Palatka, Florida. This Random Viking played his college football at South Carolina for those Fighting Gamecocks.
I'm control Fing here.
Sure.
Okay. Interesting.
All right. This former and Random Viking, well, he's on Instagram, but not super popular. 2,097 followers.
I have a guess.
Sure.
Do I want to burn it? Let's go one more clue. I don't know if you.
It's only one. It's only one guess of 3. I mean, you'll still be at 2.
I know, but then I'm going to be nervous to fire off the second guess, and Declan will just sit there and let me burn myself out.
All right. This former Viking at the NFL Scouting Combine ran a 4.61 in the 40-yard dash.
Okay, I'm glad I didn't guess.
Can I just say, Phil, did you think,
yes,
this is not a guess, that this was Sidney Rice?
No. Is it Sidney Rice?
No.
That was not a guess by me. I'm talking out loud to Phil. And I don't know if that was a guess.
But he did go to
It's
South Carolina.
It's good.
Yeah.
Good guess,
But he
though.
did go
I think
to...
we've already used him, haven't we?
Yeah.
Let me control F Sidney Rice.
I don't have him on here.
We have
Oh, I
not
thought
used
we did.
Sidney
We
Rice.
did not use Sidney
That would
Rice.
have been
not, okay.
that would have been the stealthiest victory of all time, though, right?
I would have been super pissed off if that
But he said it's not a guess. Like, what would have happened?
No, Declan said it's not a guess, but then I said, "Is it Sidney Rice?" And you said no.
And if
so
that
that
was
is
Oh
an
my
official
God.
guess.
So
for
we
me.
would have given you the win.
I
Oh
would
my
have quit the
God.
show. My critics would have loved it.
Dude,
but
I don't think you
show
should
if
do that
had
next
happened.
time. Like, I think that should be held for after,
Well,
because you just set
Look,
yourself up.
a
for-
4.640 and 2,000 Instagram he has he definitely has
He's
more
pretty slow.
followers,
By the
and
way,
4.640 is slow for a wide receiver.
It is.
Yep.
Sidney Rice is very popular in the Seattle business community. He is he's like a wine owner and a vineyard owner, so he still lives out in Washington.
He's a very
Seattle.
cerebral cat, as I recall.
Yep.
All right. This former Viking, and right now Rando, played in 47 games with the team, but made only 7 starts.
All with the Vikings.
Yes, sir.
How many starts?
7 of 47 games. This was after he was a 3rd round pick of the Vikings, by the way. So this is a career Viking. Not a long career, but this is a career Viking.
That would have been faster.
Oh, he was so he only played with the Vikings?
Yes.
Oh.
3rd round pick of the Vikings, only a Viking.
I don't think this guy was in. No.
This next
we haven't
clue
used
is-
this guy though. Okay.
This next clue should help. This former Viking had 2 interceptions in 4+ seasons, and those seasons were, I'll give you the seasons, 2002 to 2005.
This is such a dark period in Vikings history.
But I feel like it's a prime period for both of you. I feel like as Declan was coming off, like as a youngster, he was now embracing the club. and Phil was certainly cognizant enough of this club. And 2002 to 2005 basically makes him a Ticey Viking. He was a Ticey Viking.
Is it? I have a guess. Is it? I think the guy's name was Brian Williams.
There was a Brian Williams. He played cornerback, and it's not him.
Oops.
So I'm down to my final guess now. We have not used Brian Williams yet. I'm adding some of these names to the future. There's a lot of future ideas here.
In case he suffers a defeat here, is going to have some ideas for next week.
No, it's actually, I do that sometimes too when we play this.
It's smart. It's smart. I'm not passing judgment. I'm not a judgmental person. You guys are my buddies. His best NFL season came as a rookie when he had 27 total tackles and 1 interception. So again, that's 2002.
Oh man, I have another guess, but if I'm wrong, then Declan just wins. And this would be Declan's first win since the controversial Hank Basket episode of Random Viking of the Week.
It's like back in the Trump administration. This former Viking was a special teams stalwart, and in fact was the special teams captain.
Did you confirm he was? You can answer this however you want to, but when I guessed Brian Williams, you said Brian is a cornerback, but it's incorrect.
Brian,
was that a confirmation that we're looking for a cornerback here, or no?
No, in
not
fact,
necessarily.
In fact, your next clue, I'm going to give you the position. This former Viking was a safety.
Safety, okay. Kind of a special team safety from that era. God, those are some bad defenses too. Like those are Mike Tice defenses. I do have a guess, but I don't think it's right.
So we're talking about a safety. We're talking about 2002 to 2005, and obviously a backup.
This guy played for other teams. It's not him. I think we used him. Yeah, we've used him.
Can I ask? Does his first name start with one of the last 5 letters of the alphabet?
I'm sorry, first.
Does the first letter of his first name start with one of the last 5 letters of the alphabet?
Yeah. Yes.
Is it Wazwa Sirwanga?
No, I would have gotten that.
No. But you got the right letter. You got the right letter. You had it. Declan wins. Willie Offord.
Willie Offord, dude. Oh.
Phil covered him. You don't remember Willie Offord?
I do
suffered
remember
a gruesome leg injury against the Saints in 2005. Oh my God, I thought you had it because you had the letter right.
I was gonna ask specifically, does his first name start with a W, but I didn't want it to be too obvious. But the answer, you would have said yes, and you probably would have beamed like I was onto it. All right. Well, congratulations, Declan, for a backdoor victory here in Random Viking.
Willie Offord, hell of a special teams player, and yeah, his leg was mangled at the Metrodome against the Saints right before the Love Boat.
Damn, dude. So he couldn't even participate on the Love Boat because he was so mangled, banged up, right?
Yep. And then he went to training camp in 2006 with Childress, broke his hand or something, and that was it for him. Never played again.
He could have used some tender loving care on that Love Boat after the injury, just some friends to brighten his spirits.
Which boat? Because don't forget, there were 2 boats. The good guy boat and the bad guy boat.
Yep. Did they? I don't think they served Surly on that boat, did they? Probably a good idea that they didn't from a brand perspective, Judd. But you can get Surly other places. Yeah.
I'm glad they didn't, but if they had, I would have hoped that they all would have been sipping on it before I die. Because before I die, before we all die, we only want one thing, and that's a Viking Super Bowl championship. And Surly has has brought us a beer that brings us all together in the before I die culture and lifestyle. Of course, they've got Furious, which I absolutely love. Logic Bomb. I could go down the variety packs also great, available of course at your local liquor store. Surly Brewing, you got to check them out. And when you do, of course, as always, show us your cans on Twitter /X. I'm at Jay Zolgad at Score North. We love to see what you're sipping on, especially when you're watching a game.
All right, there it is. Random Viking of the week. Congratulations. What a victory by Declan there. Just sat there and watched me light myself on fire.
Well, he baited you into Sidney Rice, which was genius.
I know. I actually was going to guess Troy Williamson there first when you said South Carolina, but then you went 4.640. I'm like, no, that ain't Troy.
And we've done Troy, right?
I don't think we've done Troy Williamson yet.
Really?
No. The key is available. So
I
might give you Troy. I'm going to give you guys. I might give you Troy Williamson next week if you guys can remember. If you guess it before the first clue, you might have a chance to win.
I almost gave you another former defensive back, but the clues there were like no great clues. They were all obvious.
Yeah.
So I did 5 questions and I'm like, this sucks.
It's too obvious.
Dang.
All right, we gotta go. This is Purple Daily presented by Quick Trip here, Daily Vikings Entertainment, where we just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die. Dang it.